Hello and welcome everyone to Gridiron Recap on New York Sports Machine. We are entering that corner, that college football corner, and alongside me is our college football analyst, Jersey Joe Archino. Jersey Joe, Week 11 is now in the books, and we're getting to crunch time here. I want to know your top 5 picks after Week 11 is all said and done.
It has just been a phenomenal college football season. The playoffs are going to be here before we know it. So 1 through 5 for me, starting off with number 1, you've got to go with Mississippi State. Now, they've really struggled with the last 2 games, beating Arkansas this past weekend 17-10, a tough road win against Kentucky before that. And I really think you're starting to see the SEC, just the toughness of their schedule getting up with them. I mean, the last 5 games, they've played LSU, Texas A&M, Auburn, Kentucky, Arkansas. It has been a very tough stretch for them, but they keep finding ways to win. Sometimes that's all you need to do. Dak Prescott's play has fallen off a little bit. I mean, you look at him, he's turned the ball over a little bit more than normal, tweaked the hamstring a little bit, couldn't really run, but Mississippi State is definitely getting in good position right now. A good win to kind of get a little break. UTE Martin this weekend, they will just destroy that team. And then the big one against Alabama. Can they beat Alabama? That's still to be seen. I think they can, but definitely the rest of the way, I think Mississippi State is definitely going to remain one of our top college football playoff teams.
So now your number 2 spot. We know you're number 1 now. Who do you have for number 2?
Number 2, I'm going with the War Eagles, the Auburn Tigers. I love it. What a phenomenal game this weekend between Ole Miss and Auburn. Just a classic game. And Gus Malzahn shows us once again that his offense can beat any defense. Last year against Alabama, against Missouri, these huge, just physically big SEC defenses, his running offense got the job done. They do it again against Ole Miss, who was the number 1 team in the SEC. I mean, you look at Cameron Artis-Payne, their running back. He's running the ball so well. Last year, Auburn rode Trey Mason as long as they could. This year, they're just grinding it out with Cameron Artis-Payne. Nick Marshall, what a dynamic weapon to have there. He's got Sammy Coates, what a big physical receiver. And just all together, Auburn, it's all shaping up to be really going well for them. Gus Malzahn and Auburn keep on going. Looking ahead for them, they've got a little break this weekend against Texas A&M. A&M with Kenny Hill now suspended. I think they're definitely in better shape, and they'll get a pretty easy win there. Then against Georgia. Now, I think a couple weeks ago, we would have thought Georgia would be a very tough game, but you see Florida, the Gators really kind of handed Georgia a very tough loss, ran the ball extremely well, and if Florida can run the ball that well against Georgia, good luck when you play Auburn. Auburn against Georgia, I like them there as well, and I think Auburn is going to be 10-1 going into rivalry week against Alabama. Can they beat Alabama? It will be tough, but I do think they will. I think they'll beat Bama.
So speaking about Auburn, and we know that they squeaked out that 35-31 win over Ole Miss, and we talk about the type of defense that Auburn had to deal with Ole Miss. Ole Miss had a defense that was the top scoring defense in the country. Now, they were able to score 35 points on them. They were able to have just enough offensive firepower to get the job done. But the big play in that game wound up to be the Auburn linebacker, Chris Frost, who laid down that tackle and that forced that fumble and allowed the Auburn Tigers to come away with that win. How big of a play was that?
My goodness. I mean, I think Auburn might be the team of destiny. I mean, even going back to last year, the return against Alabama, you go to the game against Georgia with the miracle play. I mean, I think destiny is just on the side of the Auburn Tigers. They just come up with these huge, huge plays at the end of the game. And Coach Gus Malzahn, I think he put it best. I mean, when the game is on the line at the end and Auburn has a chance, his guys expect to win. And I think that there's no reason they shouldn't. I mean, they've just shown time and time again through adversity, being down, it doesn't matter. This team has the talent. They're developed enough to get the job done, and they keep on getting it done.
507 yards they gained on that Ole Miss defense. Unstoppable. Jersey Joe, give me number 3.
Number 3, now this is the one that I'm the least convinced on, the Florida State Seminoles. The big thing with them, they are at 8-0. They will run the table. I mean, looking ahead before we get into it, they play Boston College, Florida, Miami. there's really no threat there. But the thing you want to see out of Florida State is, where are the convincing wins? You have games against NC State where they struggled. This week, a week they played Louisville. They struggled tremendously in that game. The best opponent they faced was Notre Dame, and Notre Dame, very frankly, should have won that game. So Florida State, the big thing with them is, where are they going? Where are the dominant wins? They struggle to run the ball. They're 102nd in the nation running the ball. They struggle defensively. It's all been Jameis Winston, who did struggle a little bit in that Louisville game. But Florida State, they will get to the playoff undefeated. But can they beat a SEC defense like a Mississippi State or an Auburn? I just don't think so. When you can't run the ball, that's going to really put a lot more pressure on Jameis. And their defense, quite frankly, just can't handle an Auburn offense or a Dak Prescott-led offense. I just think at the end of the day, there's no way we will see Florida State holding up the trophy, being the champions once again.
They do rely on Jameis Winston an awful lot. Talented player, but you need a supporting cast to that talented player. Lay it on me. Number 4.
Number 4, we are going with the Oregon Ducks. Marcus Mariota, as Gus Johnson from Fox likes to say. I mean, he's just been phenomenal. The things he has to work through, I mean, you look at the offensive line for Oregon, they've really struggled this year. You look at them defensively, really give up a lot of big plays, but Marcus Mariota has been phenomenal. 26 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on the year. Rushing, he does it all. His speed is just unbelievable. The line breaks down, and he just makes plays when there is none. They do it all on the offensive side of the ball with Oregon. You look ahead a little bit. A tough game this week against a Utah team that has had a tremendous year, has handed teams like UCLA a loss. Arizona State did beat them this weekend, 19-17, but still, they hung in there. Utah is a good team. Oregon cannot overlook this opponent, but if they get past Utah, I really like Oregon to go undefeated the rest of the way. They will have one loss, but they will not lose another game. They will play after that Colorado and Oregon State. I don't think they'll lose another game. And as long as Marcus Mariota keeps playing this way, the Ducks, they're going to be a very exciting team to watch in the playoff.
Now, Marcus Mariota got his revenge on the Stanford Cardinals this past week, the team that has kept them out of that national championship berth the last couple of years. The story has been Marcus Mariota, but how about the ability of this team to go up against a great defense like the Stanford Cardinals, a team that has allowed, I think it was about 31 straight games that they have kept teams 30 points and below. And Marcus Mariota was able to lead this Oregon team to take this team down. It's a good sign of good things to come.
It absolutely is. I mean, you can't say enough about the guy because, especially with the pass rush of Stanford, I think Stanford and Oregon are kind of so different. I mean, Stanford's all about toughness, hard mouth, physical football. Oregon's very more finesse, their speed, spacing, timing. And Oregon won in this game, and Marcus Mariota, it was all on his play. He has just been outstanding. I said it last week on this show. He's my Heisman favorite after beating Stanford finally for the first time in his career. That has just accelerated my thought on that. We see Dak Prescott kind of going down a little bit with his play. Marcus Mariota just keep going up, and up. So I really like Mariota. He is the Heisman favorite, and there's no question that he should be.
Over 500 yards of total offense the Ducks were able to put on the Stanford Cardinals in that game. So definitely, especially the Cardinals, a team that was only allowing 250 yards to teams in their offensive structure. Good sign. Give me number 5, Jersey Joe.
Finishing off with 5, and on the outside looking in is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, they did have a bye, and they're coming off their bye playing LSU, who also had a bye. So these teams are both rested up. It's going to be a very physical, tough SEC game. But, I mean, look at Alabama. They're the number 2 ranked defense in points against in the country. Defensively, they're always bringing great toughness to the table. They're fundamentally sound. The big key for Alabama is how can they continue to improve on offense. Lane Kiffin and Blake Sims have got to continue to get on the same page, get the ball to Amari Cooper. You look at Blake Sims, he's at his best when you go up tempo. You let him just play with his athleticism. Don't think, just read and react and use those skills to really take over the game. I think Alabama is definitely in a good shape. I mean, you can never count them out. Unfortunately for them, their schedule coming up, brutal. I mean, you have the game off the bye against LSU. After that, you have Mississippi State. LSU from Mississippi State is brutal. After that, you've got a little bit of a break, but then finally rivalry week, you've got Auburn. Those 3 games there, I just can't see them winning all 3. I think they beat LSU off the bye. I think there's a very good possibility they lose to Mississippi State. They will beat Mississippi State or Auburn, but there's just no way they can beat them both. There's just too physical, too good, too talented to beat both those teams.
And in our game of the week, TCU squeaking, and when I say squeaking, I mean squeaking, out a win over West Virginia 31-30. And it all came down to a Colby Listenby 40-yard completion, setting up the Jaden Olbercrum field goal, the first field goal he's ever had to win a game in his career, that sends TCU off with the victory.
Unbelievable. Again, just the slate of games we had was just incredible. I mean, you have West Virginia, TCU at 3:30, 7 o'clock Auburn and Ole Miss, and then 7:30 Stanford and Oregon. But this West Virginia game, it was pretty interesting because you would think by watching the game, it was all West Virginia, but it shows you the importance of turnovers. West Virginia was clearly had the better game, but the 5 turnovers were just unacceptable. Clint Trickett threw the 2 picks, which were so bad. They fumbled the ball a couple of times. And Trevon Boykin on TCU, you limit this guy's possessions. He definitely had his roughest start of the year. Really could not get in rhythm offensively in the passing game. TCU, the running game really aided them in this game. But when you can stop Trevon Boykin, you've got to take advantage of those situations. West Virginia did not. They kept on having these good drives interrupted by turning the ball over. And it just shows you the importance of that. I mean, TCU, you give them a lot of credit. It was a gutsy win. Gary Patterson and that team is definitely looking poised to finish the rest of the year, possibly without another loss. They do play Kansas State this week. That is their final game with very tough implications behind it. Kansas State has been very good this year. So is TCU. This game could legitimately decide the Big 12. I do like TCU in this game. I just think Trevon Boykin's athleticism is going to be enough to get them past this game. You look at Kansas State and Jake Waters. He's played well as well this year, but I think TCU's offense is going to get back in rhythm starting this week. But again, what a phenomenal slate of games we had this weekend.
Boykin had 400 yards throwing last week. This week didn't do so much justice for his Heisman case that he's trying to make. But for this edition of College Corner here on Gridiron Recap, Jersey Joe Archino and Anthony Carlo, we'll see you next time.